Hello, everyone. Welcome to Clinton Public Library's Inkverse Live for the day. I'm very glad to get to talk to everybody. Today, we're going to be covering a very special thing. We're going to be covering Avatar: The Last Airbender, specifically book one of the currently, I believe, five-part series. It is a sequel comic to the original TV series from Nickelodeon. Overall, it's a very special series, I think, to a lot of people. It's got a great deal of background and detail and storytelling, which you'll get to familiarize yourself with. If you haven't perchance seen the original series on Nickelodeon, I would definitely recommend going to see that first, as this, of course, is the sequel series. So if you want a little better idea of what's going on, that might help. Give me just a moment. I'm having some technical difficulties here. All right, here we go. So, this here, Avatar: The Last Airbender, is the sequel to the original Avatar series, which is, of course, the Avatar: The Last Airbender, of which there was four parts of the original cartoon series. Um, this is a comic book sequel that released several years ago, and this will be the first one that I will. This is our ink first for the month. I will start now by showing you the trailer for the series, specifically book one.
So, Fire Lord has returned.
After all the pain my father has caused, it's my duty to bring healing to the world.
Yes! The Harmony Restoration Movement. I like it!
If you ever see me turning into my father, I want you to end me.
I didn't even kill Ozai, and he was evil all the way through.
Your daughter snuck into my home and tried to kill me.
I may be an Earthbender, but through my father's bloodline, I am a Fire Nation citizen!
I need your advice, Father.
Zuko's starting to act like his old man Ozai then.
Zuko was in his clearest moment when he asked you for that promise.
I came here to talk to you, Zuko, as a friend. But you've changed.
Fire Lord Zuko has officially withdrawn his support of the Harmony Restoration Movement.
Harmony requires 4 separate nations to balance each other out.
Avatar Aang can handle himself.
Aang! Stop! Don't you thunderheads know who I am?
The city is probably doomed. We're probably doomed.
Fire Nation out!
Let go, Zuko! You're hurting me! Don't make me hurt you back!
Katara.
Sokka!
Zuko,
Aang!
Fine. I promise.
And that was the trailer for the first Avatar graphic novel. Overall, I would say that it is an excellent series and definitely continues in the spirit. And we'll get into a little bit of what the plot entails. So it starts exactly right off the bat, a year since the end of the war, and follows a movement that is looking to restore peace. And it follows all of the different characters of the Avatar gang as they do different tasks and pursue, obviously, becoming adults, which is part of what the original story was about. And part of being an adult is maybe sometimes you have to do things that you don't necessarily want to. You might have to help people you don't necessarily want to. You might even have to be forced into something that isn't always very fun, but sometimes that's just kind of life. And that's kind of what the original gang has to get into. It starts off, first off, Zuko is our new Fire Lord of the Fire Nation, and he generally is very cautious with his steps because he does not want to end up overbearing like Ozai was. He does not want to get into the same issues naturally, having had such a difficult childhood. Um, Overall, he acts to, as best he can, make the Fire Nation better and atone for a lot of its issues that came up throughout the war. Aang, of course, is still trying to investigate certain things related to his background and his roots. Overall, though, the first book focuses on Zuko and his chasing down of whereabouts in regards to his mother, as he's still seeking to find what happened with her. And that's the majority of the book overall, is pursuing any whereabouts with his mother, as well as dealing with an assassination attempt and some of the political ramifications that would happen in regards to that after a 100-year war. Of course, it's very tempted to you'll have citizens that will attempt to drag things back in, and being that Zuko is a very staunch anti-war person without a very good reason, he has to kind of fight to keep the Fire Nation backed down throughout that conflict and explore what might happen otherwise if they weren't to pursue war and become a more peaceful and balanced nation. As balance is one of the core components of the Avatar world, is seeking balance in all things. um, he only looks to really defend and play on the back foot because he really just does not want to. He only wants to protect. He doesn't want to be naturally the bad guy of the continent like his father was. Um, and overall, there is a number of other issues. Toph has a new metal bending school, and of course, it happens to find itself in some trouble because, of course, Toph always has to get into trouble. That's just her nature. Um, Overall, though, I can definitely say it's a great graphic novel. I adored the older series. Um, and this has some great twists. Like there's the new Harmony Restoration movement, which is looking to restore balance in its own ways and with its own agendas that, as always, may not align with different groups. Um, and of course, sometimes they have their own thoughts about different developments. Even though they're looking to restore balance, it's not necessarily a balance that might be good in terms of keeping other positive issues that before were of a negative light. Now they're a lot better. And sometimes some people chasing balance don't always see eye to eye with other groups who are, and they'll do anything they can, of course, to set things their way. And that's generally what happened to cause the previous war. And of course, Zuko and the rest of the gang with Aang are definitely not in looking to get into another war after just having done all they did to get out of the last one. Overall, Zuko is seeking to crack down on that harmony movement because the harmony movement would undo a lot of the reforms that he has sought to bring balance and peace to his nation, which causes a lot of issues, of course, with the colonies. And he's just generally struggling to not be his father, but at the same time stand out and be his own person in a way that both accepts tradition, as is the Fire Nation way, but he really does not want to end up like his father or his father before him. And of course, Aang is still trying to get Zuko to follow the right path just the same, and Zuko's just as desperate to. And they've had some issues, they have some arguments, but that just draws them closer and I think shows the characters their own brilliant light. And overall, I think the book is going to be something that you're very much going to enjoy. Let's cover some other things about the lore and the history of the book. First off, I will say this is the originally this was a three-part mini comic. This is now a compilation comic, so everything is all together. And of course, you can find the comic on our online Comics Plus as well, still, as well as the rest of the series. Aang spends a majority of the book trying to get the rest of the nations to keep balance. Of course, that's being difficult because Zuko is trying to crack down on the Harmony movement, and the Earth Kingdom is very upset because its citizens in the colonies are upset, and so they keep trying to force reform. And Zuko is trying to accept some reform, but he really does not want to he doesn't want to cause a panic or an uproar in his own nation, and he gets desperate and he does the one thing that he felt he probably never would. He goes to Ozai for advice, and you'll have to read into the book as to how that goes out. Overall, Aang and Katara get up to their own travels a little bit. They're looking to peacemake with the Earth Nation after the blow up with the colonies being and having protests against Fire Nation crackdowns, and they find an interesting little fan club for Aang. And of course, there's some wonderful ruminations as Aang tries to, of course, accept the fans a little bit, but then they start to remind him of his roots, and that upsets him. And he then goes on to work with convincing the Earth King and kind of has a lot of somber moments where he's remembering his roots and tries to work to uncover some things that he maybe didn't know previously. He eventually will likely end up going to the air nomad uh, locations just to see if he can find any more, but you'll have to read to find out. Otherwise, Ozai criticizes Zuko's indecisiveness and refers to some past instances from his childhood just to get him to understand situationally better, and as usual gives him some backhanded compliments and then some other derivative remarks because it's Ozai. Ozai's never really been anything less than a psychopath of any sort, and that's unfortunately something that Zuko has to live with his father being. Overall, I believe you're going to enjoy this book a lot because it's amazing that they did what they did to fill out the gap between this and Korra. There's a great deal of character development where yes, sometimes the characters fall into their own previous hardships, other issues, but they always manage to work it out as best they can and without any issues, although they do always learn some things and that's important. Of course, then we get to Toph's Metal Bending Academy. She's been having her own issues with Aang's little fan club that's been spreading around, and she's also trying to keep a hold of a lot of the issues with the Earthbenders. And there's even a little part where Sokka learns about Toph's academy, and they even have a little meetup to discuss the past and some of Toph's family, because Toph is reminiscing about her family and the issues they have. And if you want to learn more about it, you're going to have to read it. Otherwise, some other characters, such as Mai, learns about Zuko and meeting with Ozai, and there's going to be some interesting remarks there, of course, because naturally she didn't like Ozai either due to some of the background they had. Otherwise, I would say that the book evolves the characters in brilliant new ways and still keeps them the same and of the same heart. And I think you're going to very much enjoy it, just as much as I did. And again, you can find this and the rest of the series in our library up in the YA. All you have to do is ask for it or pick it off the shelf. As well, you can find it on